Hi, my dearest. This is Vasilina Orlova with you today again, and I would like to talk to you about rejections and publications. These are two very closely interconnected topics, and I think it is important for the writer to remember that rejection is a huge part of our today's travel, in this contemporary world. And when I say in contemporary world, I do not mean to say that previously it was different somehow. It's just that contemporary world, I think, allows us technically to submit more work to more journals, to more publications. And thus, potentially, we can, from one point, overcome this barrier of rejections, and from another point to actually encounter far more rejections than perhaps the writers encountered once upon a time, when they had to actually type the writing on a typewriter and send it to the journal, not to mention handwriting. So, of course, we know all these stories about rejections and how the writers overcame rejections. If you remember in Stephen King's book on writing, Stephen King describes how when he was sending his first stories, received a flurry of rejections, like a stream of rejections, and he would pin down those rejections in one place in the wall, and that served as an inspiration for him to submit more and to overcome this, gatekeeping moment of rejections, because he encountered quite a bit of those. We also know the story about John Rowling, who created Harry Potter, one of the most, publicized books for young people, and one that was published in the tremendous number of copies. According to the lore that was created by the author, she was writing first chapters of the novel sitting in a cafe, and then she sent out that novel to various public publishing houses, and most of them rejected her. So usually the stories are being told in order to kind of encourage people and show to them that even the great ones, even the writers who are very widely acknowledged, they had their share of rejections. However, it is less often discussed that this is not something that, the tale of rejections is what I'm saying is not such a life-affirming tale. Yes, most writers will have all those rejections throughout their lifetime, but these rejections they also can be very discouraging. And it is great if you are like Joan Rowling and Stephen King, you are able to pin those rejections, you are able to collect them. In fact, some artists also do that. I saw a video on Instagram how an artist pinned rejections from various venues that exhibit artworks. And the thing is, you can only overcome this kind of rejections if you really believe in yourself and you have a ground to believe in yourself. You can't just take this certainty from the outside world, the certainty from yourself. You have to be supported by somebody. Either in your childhood, your parents should be as supportive as they could, in order to plant in you this certainty in yourself and in your own forces, so that even the criticism and rejection, it cannot really stop you. Or you have to have some other sources of support. You have to have friends who support you. You have to have your loved ones who support you. Because otherwise, if the world keeps telling you that no, this is not it, that this is not good enough, that we are not going to publish it, and you keep sending it, the thing is, you will stop at some point sending your stuff out. You will stop because you understand, okay, as a rational being, right? You are spending all that much time to send these things, and what you get for it is nothing. You basically have an impression that you are wasting your time. You're getting the impression that you are incapable because, they won't publish your stuff. And you are also you're also feeling like it's better for you to get to do something else. This is the burnout situation, the situation when our expectations of the world and of ourselves are called into questions by these rejections. And they can be very painful because they question your own identity. This is not about, oh, my writing is not good enough, right? That's not the story that people tell themselves. They usually tell themselves the story, oh, I'm not a good enough writer. But this is the false story, and that's the story that should be overcome. Now, let's say you do have to weather out those rejections. And the way the author is coming into being is that they kind of begin sending to the surface of this boiling water, they begin to sending these bubbles from inside, right? The bubbles of water that would explode on the surface. One bubble is your publication. Either it's an article if you're writing articles, or it's a poem if you're writing poems. Your task is to make the water boil. These bubbles should be enough so that they produce the boiling water, and then at some point, indeed, you would encounter much fewer rejections as you go along, because you will already be known to a certain circle, at least, of writers, to a certain circle of publishers, to a certain circle of journal editors and stuff. So you have to kind of begin producing and maintain a certain level of bubbling. You will still encounter rejections every now and then, but by and large, it's not impossible to get to that level when everything that you have written is going to be published. Everything that you want to bring to the point of it being published, you can do it. And in particular, you can do it as anybody. I feel like, the speech of the person who is telling you something, it has this capacity to get to the other person's mind and to the other person's heart. This speech will go through, it will. It's just that you have to either establish this kind of a situation when you are admitted, you are published, you are accepted, or you even have to create some alternative things for yourself. You can create a small journal, you can create a small publishing house. Nowadays, it's all done. You can use such infrastructure as Amazon, where you can self-publish, you can publish your friends. It doesn't have to be like you being always asking and always being rejected. You can create these alternative structures for yourself if it comes to it, if nobody else is going to publish you, right? In the contemporary world, you can do that. So what I'm saying is that the authors do have to weather out those rejections, and they have to send their submissions out there to the journals, for instance, if you're writing poetry. And you have to, I guess, send them the way, for instance, the way that you send it and you forget about it. Because again, the current society is structured the way, the current situation is structured the way that our submissions, our cover letters, our grant applications, our poems sent somewhere, they sometimes would not even get a response. That is what people call ghosting. And that is something that is very hard on people, on many people, because they're in a situation of expectation. they send something and they are waiting for the response. They are waiting, they are hoping, and then at some point the hope ends or whatever. And the thing is, it's very painful and it's a long process. Of course, it's natural to be in that process while you are in this situation that you interpret as being ghosted. But my point here is that we must switch our understanding of this situation. Yes, there is quite a bit of conversation about how these journals, these people, your partners on dating apps or whatever, they have to kind of send you these rejections, and rejections are easier to take than ghosting. Like, I get it. Like, we have to maybe as a society grow to the point where we do send, I'm sorry, I'm looking for something else at that moment, like your writing doesn't suit us, I don't feel it, let's like end talking, your cover letter is not good enough or whatever, right? We want to get rejections from one point, but from another point, it's also like it's forcing the situation. Sometimes people would receive some information and it would take them quite a bit of time to really get around to it. And they might never get around to it, but it doesn't mean that that they haven't accepted this information. It doesn't mean that they haven't read that. It doesn't mean that they haven't thought about it. You do want to get rejections from one side, but from another point, you do want to get ghosted, is what I'm saying, right? You don't want to always get those rejections. You want to have these doors open potentially, but you need to kind of accept this life in the state of ambiguity. You have to like knock on all those doors and, yeah, maybe nothing will happen and nobody will answer, but maybe someone will answer 2 months from now, 3 months from now, like a year from now, and that will still maybe be good if you are not, after a year of waiting, if you are not in this situation of complete resentment and like, if you still want it, you can accept it, So it's important to kind of maintain this good attitude and be open to rejections and also be open to ghosting. This is ultimately what it is, because yes, we want to receive those rejections, but we also want to not receive those rejections. We want to live with ambiguity. Maybe something will click in them after 2 months or something, right? So if they already sent you a rejection, that would not happen. So you want them to not send you that rejection ultimately, right? Maybe they need to process something. So yeah, the bubbling stuff. And I think that we also need to be sort of very cynical in a way about those rejections and about those submissions. For instance, when I was publishing my poetry in English, I did get some success. I also had quite a bit of rejections. I found a list of journals that would publish poetry, and I began working through it. And in particular, I started with the letter B. So in my result of these publications, I would have a list of my poems published in the journals starting with a B. So it was like, I don't know, like, what was it? Beat something, and then like blue bonnets something, and then something else, and stuff like that. So then I basically had to stop submitting because I got into that PhD program and I turned completely into trying to write my ethnography. But that was going somewhere, even though those rejections were very unpleasant to receive, obviously. So yeah, you have to kind of, I think, be cynical about it. Like, yes, you will get a lot of rejections, and therefore you have to approach it as the task where you are taking the rejections for granted, and then you are cheered by the acceptance. So it's like the other way around. The expectations probably shouldn't be the baseline shouldn't probably be I'm going to be published everywhere. It should probably be I'm going to be rejected everywhere. And in the cases when I'm not rejected, I'm going to celebrate it. I'm going to be happy about it, right? So yeah, so that should be an open-ended process, and you should be okay with ambiguity, and you should be a little bit automatic about it, because yes, there are tons of journals. They all want you to engage seriously with their content. They really want you to want to be published there in particular, as opposed to somewhere else. So ideally, you have to know what they're doing. But at the same time, well, if they are going to reject you so much, you kind of will have harder time to sort of committing to them before this collaboration happens, right? So I think it should work both ways. In general, I think that much more that is written that is not published is going to be published, because, or it should be published, I want to say, because we want our writing out. We want writers to be published. We want everything that is written that is worthy of being published to be published, because I think we need more conversation. I think we need more conversation, in particular cultural discourse. The more is going to be somehow presented to the public, the better. And that's important to maintain some level of that. But at the same time, I feel like very often these rejections, they're so arbitrary, they are so subjective, that really it's hard to derive some sort of reasoning sometimes behind it, right? And sometimes people would share and they would provide you the feedback, which is very helpful. And again, it's not easy to take it often, right? But more often they would not provide any feedback. So that's just going to be a blunt rejection. So that is a thing that we need to get used to. I think that it is important also for the writer to overcome those rejections, because this is what ultimately makes or breaks the writer. I think I already mentioned in one of my previous videos that after the death of the writer, there will not be that advocate for the writing most often. Sometimes it happens, but most often it doesn't. So whatever you will manage to publish throughout your lifetime is going to be basically it. And it will define whether people would want to look further into your writing that were left unpublished. And most often they will not have the opportunity to do that. So it is extremely important, not only what you write, but also whether and how you publish your stuff. Often people feel like if they're writers, that is enough. But the thing is, we have no idea what you have written. You have it all hidden in your table, in the depths of your computer, in your journal, whatever. We have no access to it. We don't know what you have written. So the only way we will know what you have written is that if you publish it. And the only way if you publish it and how you publish it, if you are able to go through rejections and weather them out. And that is actually a more difficult task that it might appear, because it's easy to say, while you haven't started this process yet, that yes, you are going to be brave about it, and yes, you are going to be strong about it. But they do wear you out, as well, bit by bit. They do kind of introduce all these doubts, and the ultimate goal of people who write you, for instance, those reviews, if they do, is to probably make your writing better. Let's not assume the bad intentions. It's never the intentions of the critics, whoever they are, and even how however harsh they are, it's almost never the intention of telling you to shut up. The intention is to help your writing, and it might sound implausible, because if the rejection hits you, that feedback hits you, if it's difficult to overcome it, you won't feel the way that this person wishes you well, but it's always better to assume it. And even if this feedback is extremely caustic and harsh, there are still possibilities to get something out of it. So if you struggle with rejections, or you struggle even with the idea that you will have to get rejections and you will have to weather them out, you are welcome to contact me, and I can help as a coach. I'll link my Take Lessons link in the description of this video. And the prize is important. I think what is important is that you keep your eyes on the prize, and your prize is being able to obtain that audience that you deserve, to show that writing that you want to show, to start this conversation that you want to start, and to be a contributor into the discourse, right? You want to kind of participate in that conversation that is unfolding, right? So I'm really hoping you're having a great day. I'm very grateful for your attention. Please do like my video and subscribe to my channel. Yeah, and I'm hoping that I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.